live on a Sunday afternoon for Patreon Live. I postponed today because yesterday was my son's birthday, so we're just trying to do family stuff, hang out with him, playing video games. And then as it turns out, he's joining in today, right in the other side of the room. You can kind of see him right there. Actually, do that. There you go. He's in the gaming chair playing Lego Batman. Chloe's secretly over there. So if you hear weird noises in the background, it's them fighting with each other while battling crime in Gotham as the Justice League. Let's get started with your questions. Game Your Man. Hey, Sean, you probably haven't seen it, but the Black Lightning spinoff Painkiller had its backdoor pilot this past week. Just wanted to let you know in case you watched it. Check out the episode. It's a standalone, so you don't have to watch Black Lightning to know what the episode is about and explains the main character. Yeah, I haven't. I'm not honestly, what happened with Black Lightning is that at the time it premiered, the only way for me to watch it was on the CW app, and it was just simply terrible at the time. And so I was trying to catch up on Flash and Arrow and start watching Black Lightning, and it was just too much because the app was so bad. You'd lose connection, it would start over. And so I threw in the towel about 3 episodes in. And so I haven't watched any of it. So it's not something I'm really tracking along with. And as you're aware, I'm pretty frustrated with most of the Arrowverse. So if it's not tied to a character that I'm already invested in, Flash, Superman, then it's just not really on my radar. Especially right now where I'm just struggling to keep up with stuff anyway. So it's unfortunately not one that's super duper on my mind. The Disney Nerd, good afternoon, Mr. Chandler. How are you doing? And how was Liam's birthday? Liam, how was your birthday? Come on over here. How was your birthday?
Very good.
Very good, he says. Favorite present?
Lego set.
Lego set. You got books, Lego sets, Mandalorian, Star Wars toys, all kinds of fun. Fortnite battle bus with an inflatable deal and a bunch of candy, and we watched a movie that an awesome movie that you guys all know that I love, but I was informed not to tell the internet about. Yes.
Hi, I'm Petey.
Yeah, you have to come over here if you want to show them stuff. The camera's right here.
Hi, I'm Petey.
Woo!
I'm Liam's toy, and he got me on his birthday yesterday.
Why are you talking so quiet? Thank you. So yeah, it was just a fun day. Pretty laid back. Just kind of hung out, played video games. Then went to a new Dollar General open right at the front of our neighborhood. So it was the first time we ever went there and let them go on a candy spree. Bought a bunch of candy, went home, and watched an awesome violent movie. Daniel Skinner. Hello, Sean. Hello, Daniel. Glad you could join. I was messaging you on Instagram all of 3 minutes ago, and I think I started within the 5 minutes I mentioned. Rich Reviews just finished doing 5 days worth of mulch. I really despise mulch. We're going to have to do something at our house. So as I've mentioned 1,000 times, pretty big deal in Texas. There's the Snowmageddon back in February. And so it was a big deal back then. But now you jump forward a month, and we're realizing which of our plants were killed by it. So then in front of our house, we've been here 10 years now. We've always had these 4 bushes right in front of our house. 2 of them, the 2 in the middle, died. And so the 2 on the outside are nice, still green. 2 in the middle have died over the last 2 months. And then some stuff in the backyard has died. And so then we're going to have to pull some of that out and do some mulch and all that fun stuff. So, yeah. We're going to have our own pretty massive project because we're going to have to dig up dead bushes and stuff in the near future, kind of delaying it. Vincent actually, Hose, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. Just say Vincent. Favorite Mortal Kombat character? Liu Kang and Johnny Cage. Johnny Cage because of the Van Damme parallels intentionally in his creation, and then Liu Kang is just does cool martial arts stuff, and his moves were easier to do more cool things, at least for me personally, and so then those were the 2 that I probably used the most. my era of Mortal Kombat really was, I played 1, 2, and 3. Ton of number 1, and I guess I also played a lot of 2 and 3. But the original Mortal Kombat and Street Fighter 2, unbelievably huge when I was the perfect age to be like, dude, you can punch people in the face, and then in this other one you can rip their head off and the spine's dangling underneath. Like, I was the age went to be wowed by that when those games came out. And so it's the original one that's the ones that I'm pretty into. David Arbor Jr. Hey, Sean, my wife and I watched Superman Red Sun yesterday. We liked it enough, but we thought it would have been better as a miniseries so that it got more time. Your thoughts? I would probably pretty universally agree on that. Let me check something real quick. I have a review for it somewhere. Yeah, it looks like it's a Patreon exclusive. So if you look through the movie reviews on Patreon, I believe I have a review for it. So you can have my thoughts whenever I first watched it. Generally speaking, this isn't specific to Red Sun. It's true of almost all of the adaptations that they don't do as a two-parter. I think all of them are too short. Almost. Batman Year One wasn't. Batman Year One, but Batman Year One is... I can't find it. It's right there, but Batman Year One is very small. Most of the other ones are these big, gigantic deals that just need more time. And so I felt Superman Red. I was about to say Batman Red Sun. No, Superman Red Sun was just so episodic, and you've got like 6 episodes in an hour and 15 minutes. So each episode is about 12 minutes long, under 15 minutes long, and it's like, let's look at this, and then let's look at this. It didn't feel developed. It didn't feel like an organic story that was flowing. It felt like let's show all of these little what if scenarios. And so I would totally agree with you. I do, but I believe it's a Patreon exclusive. So if you go through the movie reviews, whenever it came out, it was a couple months after whenever it first released. It's really frustrating to me. They released them digital first, and I don't know where to go to even get press access. They released them digital, but if I'm going to buy it, pay $20, I want the Blu-ray. And so I don't want to buy the digital version. And I don't even know if I'm going to want to own it. And so it's just frustrating. If I'm going to buy it at $20, I want the Blu-ray. I don't want just digital. And so that's actually one of the reasons I don't review of a lot of them, is because by the time I can rent them and check them out, it's already been out for other people for a little bit while longer. So it's anyway, that's the backstory. And I have a review on Patreon, so you can see my full thoughts. But I agree with you. Don Hicks, when will you be on the First Class League's movie trivia schmodown? I don't know. They have been sending some emails, but I don't know how people are getting scheduled. Whenever they first sent out the emails, I wasn't as quick to respond as some other people. Actually, the way it worked out is Christian Harloff actually direct DM'd me after about a week or so. He was like, "Hey man, are you going to sign up for this?" I was like, he's like, "Yeah, we'd love to have you and maybe use you to kind of promote it and stuff because you have a bit of a following." I was like, "Oh, cool." So I signed up, and then they haven't, like, they've sent emails being like, "Hey, do you want to do this or do you want to do that?" Kind of clarifying who's doing what, but they haven't sent me anything about any dates or anything like that. So I don't know much, and I don't currently like track the movie trivia schmodown super closely because I'm just too busy. I can't be much of a consumer because I'm much more of my time goes into creating and responding to comments, directly talking with you guys. So I don't do a lot of consuming of a lot of other movie channels. So I'm not as familiar with the exact structure of things. So even some of you might know better kind of what's going on with all of that. But I've been trying to follow along and look at one of the ones that was a week ago was, I think it's Chris. There's 2 brothers that are in the First Class League. They're from Austin, and I've met up with them. We like had lunch and stuff, hung out, and we even like joked around whenever I was first kind of admitted in the Schmodown draft and everything about like doing some training stuff. It hasn't happened because COVID's made everything tricky, but so they've been scheduled. I should probably message the guy like, "Hey man, how did you get scheduled?" Because they haven't scheduled me yet. But I've also been super busy, so I just haven't really had time. And it hasn't been something I've been worried about adding one more thing. I've just been trying to play a little bit of catch up as of recently because March was so busy and February was so crazy. And January was the kickoff of New Year and a bunch of new initiatives. Holly Johnson, thoughts on Mads Mikkelsen in Indiana Jones 5? He's a great talent. Anytime you add him, it's a good sign. I really enjoy him, even like his weird stuff. He's always fun to watch, even when he's in bad movies, and he's in a lot of really good movies too. So it's all only a win for me. The project itself, I'm not sold on really anymore. I'm very skeptical of this project. I don't know that I think it's a good idea at all to have a Harrison Ford right now is 78, and he turns 79 in a few months. The escapism, the fantasy of Indiana Jones is this intelligent adventurer battling Nazis, and he's handsome, and he's like this ideal of what every woman wants, every man wants to be. The guy that has it all. And when you're 79, it's not quite the same thing anymore. I even think he could pull it off when he was in his mid 60s, back when he did Crystal Skull. You could still kind of pull it, but like when you're pushing 80, and keep in mind, Harrison Ford is not Stallone. Stallone is hopped up on so many horse steroids and human growth hormones and everything that he's just a beast in his mid 70s. That's not the guy that Harrison Ford is. Looks great, in great shape by comparison to other 80-year-olds, but he by comparison to 80-year-olds. Whereas, Stallone, because he's been on the juice for 35 years, his body looks great compared to any normal person. But that's Stallone, and that's not quite who Ford has been. So I just don't know how that works. David Patterson, I'm reading Watchmen. I just finished chapter 8. Pretty good. Yeah. It's a classic. If you guys haven't read Watchmen, it's one of the things if you're a fan of the genre, comic book movies, comic books, superhero stuff, you have to read Watchmen. It is one of the pivotals. It is the most celebrated graphic novel of all time. It just is. And so if you're, it's the winner of the Hugo Award. Not quite sure what that means, but it's the only graphic novel that's won the Hugo Award. So if you are into this genre that has meant so much to my life, Watchmen is one that you need to read. It is rated R, so if you're 13, don't go against your parents' wishes or something like that. Get me into, don't blame me. Make sure it's okay, but it's one that you need to read in your life. Daniel Skinner, hey Sean, when do you feel it will be appropriate to introduce the kids to the 5 Jack Ryan films? Any anticipation for Without Remorse on April 30th? I get to see it before that. My review, let me check this. The embargo lifts. My review for No Remorse will come out 2 days before that. It's on Wednesday, the 28th, is when my review will come out. So I'll see it probably the 26th or something like that. I got confirmation this week that I'm getting press access to it. I'd be fine to show them the Jack Ryan movies right now, because they're just not, they don't have stuff in there that I'm afraid of my kids seeing, that I'm worried about. Because they're political thrillers with some action in it. So I'd show them a Jack Ryan movie right now. I just don't think they'd be interested. Just the way kids work is they have to be able to track along with what's happening. And so the inherent nature of political thrillers, and especially these Tom Clancy adaptations, is that there's just all these moving parts, and you have to understand how the government works. You have to, there's kind of a certain built-in knowledge of about different nations. Who do we have conflict with, to track along with what's happening? And so I don't think they, if I put on a Jack Ryan movie, they wouldn't know what was going on. So that's why I don't think I'll show the Jack Ryan movies to them anytime soon. And it doesn't seem like a genre that as much, it doesn't, for whatever reason, they don't seem to be connecting with the younger generations as much the way that my generation did, just because of the changing expectations and things like that. So I have no idea. But it's not a matter of I'm scared of showing them. Do I have any anticipation for Without Remorse? Absolutely. I saw Clear and Present Danger in the theater when it came out, and I loved Clear and Present Danger. And I rewatched it actually this last weekend. Rewatched Clear and Present Danger because I'm rewatching all the Jack Ryan movies to do a ranking after Without Remorse comes out. So, I've always loved that movie and still love that movie. And, I saw, Some of All Fears in the theater. I've been reviewing the Jack Ryan seasons. If you guys know, Without Remorse is basically a spin-off from the Jack Ryan franchise. A character named John Clark, played by Willem Dafoe, Liev Schreiber, and then now Michael B. Jordan is the star in Without Remorse. But he's a side character in the Jack Ryan stories, and then they did some books were written about him specifically, and that's what this is, starring Michael B. Jordan. And so, of course, I'm excited because I like the franchise and kind of want to see what they're doing. I actually haven't even watched the trailer for it just because I'm interested. I want to see it. I'm sold. And it's not the type that I felt like if I covered it on my channel for a trailer reaction that it would do anything. So I thought I won't watch the trailers for it, and then I'll just kind of go in fresh. The Disney Nerd, I have a couple movies for you that I need to send because I noticed you didn't have them on Blu-ray. Hint, one of them is very important Disney film. Interesting. The other is in your top 10 Marvel films. Very interesting. Interesting. I'll have to double check to see what that could mean. Rich Reviews, thoughts on Amazon spending over $450 million on the first season of the Lord of the Rings series. It's interesting to think, what does that mean? Because you think of put it in perspective, Game of Thrones is like 125 million, 150 per season. And that was, obviously top tier production values. Each season would have an epic battle or two. You look at some of what they're doing, Falcon and the Winter Soldier, that's 125 million a season, or 150 million, same range. So you're talking about the budget of 3 times what they did for Game of Thrones seasons. And I think it's looking to be 10 episodes. I mean, I haven't done research. I could be totally wrong, but if it's 10 episodes, 450 million, that's 45 million per episode. That's a lot of money. Like, that's crazy money. And you kind of know what Amazon's doing, that they want to have like their definitive franchise. They have stuff that's hitting popular, but it's not The Boys is not Lord of the Rings. And so they're trying to get their Lord, and even Jack Ryan, the TV series. Jack Ryan's a well-known franchise. It's not Lord of the Rings. So they're trying to have their must-watch series that everyone is watching. We'll see how that goes. But that is wild that they're spending that much money. Matt, are you a fan of No Doubt and Gwen Stefani? Yeah. I mean, especially Tragic Kingdom. It's like an album entirely of radio singles that are super catchy. I've never been like a massive fan. That was never one of my go-to bands or anything like that. But, Spiderwebs, Don't Speak, I'm Just a Girl, all that fun stuff. I've listened to all those songs 1,000 times, and then Hella Good, all the singles. Maybe that's the way to phrase it. They're one of those bands. I love all their singles for the most part. I can't say that I'm into the deep cuts. That's the way to phrase it. Fox, hello. First time catching the Patreon live stream. Awesome. Glad you could join in. They're pretty fun. We'll be on here for about an hour and 15 minutes. I get to everybody's questions. So as long as people don't go on for way too long at the end, I get to everything. And I think every time we've done one of these, I've answered everyone's questions. I just can get backlogged, so I can follow a little bit behind. Gamerman, in your Superman ranking, you said that Superman Returns came out at the time period I think you left out the word wrong. Came out at the wrong period in time. Do you think this is the same case with Terminator Dark Fate? Tough to say. There's two. I guess you continue on, because Terminator movies also changed with T3, Salvation, Genesis. Dark Fate went back to what worked in the Terminator and Terminator 2 in 2019. I think Terminator. It's kind of tough to say exactly. There's kind of 3 things that went on with Terminator Dark Fate. Terminator Dark Fate. Number 1, the bold choice in the first 5 minutes of the movie. In case you haven't seen the movie, I'm not going to say what it is. Also, I don't want to spoil it because my kids are in the room. And soon enough, now that my son is a grown man with a full beard, he will be watching the Terminator movies. The bold choice in the first 5 minutes was always going to alienate a lot of people. A lot of people compare it to the beginning of Alien 3. Obviously, Alien 3 was one that I had a lot of issues with. If you're any familiar with my channel, you know that my feelings on Alien 3. A lot of people make that comparison. I see it differently. Like, I could defend it. I could make an argument to try and win people over as to why it's not the same thing. But I see where people are coming from. I understand why people would make that comparison. That's number one. It was always going to alienate a lot of people. Number two, we'd had 3 sequels before it that hadn't really won over the audiences. T3, Salvation, and Genesis. Genesis in particular just really had burned mainstream audiences on the movie. And so I think if those 3 movies hadn't come out, and so instead of Terminator 3, we got Terminator Dark Fate back in 15 years ago, 10 years ago, whatever, I think in that regard, it would have played better. Simply because people wouldn't have been burned out on sequels that they weren't crazy about. So in certain ways, I think that would have helped. And then I think, to your point, it in a negative way, it's too familiar, too similar to Terminator 2 in certain ways. I obviously was a fan of the movie. I liked Dark Fate, but I understand why other people weren't. I get it. Some of the things that people say, I think I don't fully understand the argument. I think I don't get what they're saying. But a lot of the criticisms of the movie, I see what you're saying and why you could watch the movie and feel the way you're feeling, because I feel that way about other movies. Speaking of Alien 3, Alien 3 was great. I have a different feeling on that matter. Hi, Sean. Do you think you will ever rank your top 10 films from one year against your top 10 films from another year, or multiple years ranked from one another? Do I think that I ever could take my top 10 films from one year and rank them against top 10 from another year? I don't know. I don't have to think about what that would look like. So some of it's a matter of what would be the hook for other people on that. Obviously, you're asking the question because in your mind there's something that you want to see. I don't know what that, like, I don't know if you're thinking, man, I want to see what I don't know what you're seeing in that. Because my top 10 is going to be different from other people's top 10. And so then it gets niches down on the concept to only people that really, really know my channel would be interested in the video. So I'd have to, anything that's competitive is inherently interesting, and the people that get the competition are interested in it. But it would have to be something that has a broad enough appeal. So I'm not sure. I'd have to understand what you're seeing in the concept that would have a broader appeal. What is intriguing you specifically about it? David Pattison might rewatch The Irishman for the 3rd time today, since the first time I watched it was 1 year ago today, and it was my first Scorsese movie. Very cool, very cool. The Disney Nerd, do you think practical stunt work might be banned someday? Well, I mean, practical stunt work refers to a lot of things. Practical stunt work refers to a guy falls down onto a mat. Practical stunt work refers to guy jumps off of a building into a helicopter. Like Tom Cruise jumps between 2 buildings without a wire. Tom Cruise flies a helicopter. Tom Cruise dangles from a helicopter. Guy falls on a mat. Both are practical stunt work. So will all practical stunt work be banned? No. Will they continue to stop doing things as they realize that there's much safer options? Yeah. And as someone that loves practical stunt work, loves classic Jackie Chan, I mean, everything with Jackie Chan, practical stunt work. Fight choreography is stunt work. So are we going to ban stunts or fights in movies? Well, of course not. Are we going to replace all fights with CGI? No, of course not. But will they continue to do less and less guy dangling from a car, person dangling from a helicopter? Yes. And probably every time someone dies, a stunt person dies because of an actual explosion, an actual stunt, and you go, wait a minute, we could have put someone on a green screen. Every time that happens, you go, it more and more shrinks the stunt industry. Some of that's good. I mean, as someone that is as big a fan of stunt work as anyone, that, you know, I interviewed Rick Roman Waugh, director of Greenland, director of Angel has fallen, and he himself was a stuntman for Mel Gibson in Lethal Weapon 2. Like, he's the guy dangling from the car in Lethal Weapon 2. And so I talked to him about stunt work, and we talked about Terminator 2 and how they flew an actual helicopter under a bridge in that movie, and we were talking about it, and I was like, this guy gets it. I love where this guy's coming from. At the same time, you're putting lives on the line when you can do it in a computer and it looks 95% is good, 90% is good. It looks really close to realistic, so it's tough to know what to make of that. Brandon Tate. Brant Tate. I don't even know what I'm doing today. Brant Tate. What are some of your favorite graphic novels? Batman Year One, Dark Knight Returns, Watchmen, Long Halloween, Batman Long Halloween, Batman Dark Victory. A lot of Batman stuff. Obviously, I'm a big Batman fan, and I think he's had some of the stronger stories in the comics. So those are some that immediately come to mind. I like origin stories, stories of how people came to be. The Ultimates. One of the big things that inspired the Avengers was the Ultimates. It's kind of the reinvention of the Avengers and kind of a pocket continuity that didn't have to worry about all the other stuff. That's where they introduced Nick Fury looking like Samuel L. Jackson. He's literally modeled after Samuel L. Jackson in the comic book years before or like 5, 7, 8 years before he showed up in Iron Man, as opposed to looking like David Hasselhoff. David Harbour Jr., I'm reading Watchmen now as well. I also picked up the director's cut of the Blu-ray as well. I am 25 and married, so I don't have to ask my parents. That's good. That's good. It'd be weird if you still had to ask your parents about that one. I think it came out. I don't remember what happened when. In my fan mail, someone sent me the director's cut of Watchmen. I don't think I've ever seen the director's cut, and I hadn't seen the place to buy it, a normal version of it. I'd seen the Ultimate Edition that has both kind of the pirate animation, but I hadn't seen the director's cut that just adds all this. What's going on over there? Don't let him do that. Yeah, that could have hurt someone. Rhodey, no, get him out of here. That's bad. That is really not good. The dog was like trying to look out the window. I covered the window cover with a sheet, and he was just trying to mess around with it. And then he knocked over one of my lights, and like almost hit my daughter on the head. That's not good. All that to say, I plan on watching the director's cut or Ultimate Edition before Army of the Dead comes out, and whatever I do with Zack Snyder movies after that comes out, watching the longer version. Daniel Skinner, if you were to rank the current 25 Ridley Scott movies when The Last Duel or Horse of Gucci comes out, where do you think you will place Alien prequels as well as Blade Runner bottom 12 maybe? I couldn't even begin to speculate on that. I mean, I wouldn't begin to do that. I'd have to have the list in front of me. There's a lot of them that I haven't seen, so I wouldn't even begin to speculate on that. I wouldn't at all. I couldn't make a guess at all. I would have to be looking at the movies, and I think there's way too many of them that I haven't seen recent enough to be able to make any sort of intelligent comparison like that would be in good taste. So I couldn't speculate at all. Matt, I highly recommend No Man Land. It has such a beautiful message of life and adventure. Also, there's a small Marvel Easter egg with this one, Chloe Zhao's last film before Eternals. I should be watching it this week because I hope to rank the Best Picture nominees this week. I still have that one to watch. Juice and Black Messiah, Minarview, you know what I'm saying. I think there's 4 of them I still need to watch, so I got a busy next 4 days trying to get those watched. But I hope to. Should happen. I don't know. So it's not really my strong point. They're not movies I'm normally I don't gravitate towards, and I don't like to jump into highly politicized and polarizing messages and things like that, and stuff that the Best Picture Oscars love. Normally the stuff that's like, I just don't want to jump into the middle of this conversation. I go to these movies to escape real life, not to have to deal with it in my comment section. Rich Reviews, what are your plans for the summer? watch movies, talk about them on my YouTube channel, and that's about it. I mean, I don't have interesting plans to dramatically change my life. I believe in August we're going to the beach with my sister's family, so it'll be like the first time I've done an actual vacation with my kids, kind of ever. Especially with all three of them, the first time we've ever done an actual vacation, about 4 or 5 days, right after Suicide Squad. It'll be like I'll drop all of my big DC rankings after the Suicide Squad, and then head out of town for a week and hopefully leave my computer and all social media at home for a little bit. Hopefully, probably won't happen. Christopher R., as someone who is irritated with all the CW shows pushing their political agenda on their audience, how do you feel about Falcon and the Winter Soldier handled their political message better? I mean, I think it's right off the bat. I mean, I think inherently a little bit more. It's a matter of, does it feel organic, or does it make sense with this character, or does it feel like they have things they want to say and they're pushing it into the story? That's the contrast. So Falcon and the Winter Soldier, the central conflict about Sam basically being pulled between worlds, feels like a real thing that would happen, that would make sense. So that central conflict makes sense to me, that he would both be kind of going like, okay, the two worlds of him as a superhero, him as an Avenger, versus him as a black man. Him as the person that knows what Steve stood for and that ideal thing, versus America's failures to live up to those ideals. Those are real things that I think would be floating around in his head in a way that is organic and makes sense. I think there's moments where they've had scenes that felt too on the nose, a little bit too forced. Like when he's walking up to someone's house and someone calls him Black Falcon, he goes inside and he meets someone that's very angry about the way he was treated by America, and goes outside and then the police profile him. It's like, okay, little heavy-handed. That's three things all in a row, communicating, tackling. Okay, that doesn't feel like the way that this reality would really play out. It feels like you're really trying to hammer home your point. Gotcha. I'm paying attention. I hear you. So I think some of it's been heavy-handed, and I think that they're trying the stuff that's been more frustrating. Some of the stuff where I think, in a weird way, trying to make comments on interventionism and things like that without being able to really saying anything. So it's just very weird, talking about refugees in other countries after the blip. Like, this is really detached from anything that's happened in reality. Like, half the population of the earth hasn't actually disappeared, so probably not the best context to try and draw this comparison. Why don't we just stick to the one that makes sense? So I'm kind of torn on a lot of it. I like the MCU because it can bring us together, and some of the things in this I think are worthwhile, interesting observations and commentary, and I think some of it feels too much like it's written from one perspective, and it's not balancing perspectives. Thus, in a time where things are very divided and polarized, they're not helping have the conversation that brings people together on polarizing issues. They're taking a stand that adds to the polarization. That, to me, is what is a little bit worrisome for me. Disney, how many 2021 movie re-releases have you seen? How do you currently rank them? Well, I mean, I can't read off a ranking of all the movies I've seen, because I've seen a lot of them. But I mean, you can look at my monthly rankings and piece together from there what it looks like. But 2020, no, that's total movies watched. My 2021 movies ranked, looks like I've seen 22 of them. Like, you can look at my monthly rankings. Those give you a pretty good idea of where things are falling. I don't think I have any. I think everything I've watched within the month of it's been released. So they're all in there, and it'll give you a very good idea of where everything lands and falls on my list. But I'm not going to read off a 22 movie ranking in the live stream, so just a bit much. Christopher Ard, I see what you're saying about the plot being lacking in Falcon and the Winter Soldier. And also, did you see Ben Shapiro's review of Kong vs. Godzilla? He said the movie's getting way too much praise and it should be at 50% on Rotten Tomatoes. I have not seen his review on that, so I have not. Question number one: Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Yeah, I don't know. It's kind of frustrating because it feels like people either like just feel like there's a piece missing for the show, or they're just on board with it. So in my last review, kind of voiced my frustrations and kind of pinpointed like, yeah, why would Bucky break this person out of prison and team up with this person? There's not an urgent threat. And people are like, whoa, what are you talking about? There's this stuff out there. They would do this because of that. And like they're saying it as if they will convince you. Like that's not remotely would convince me. Like there's this gigantic gap of like, no, I don't believe that Bucky would do that. Like, no. Just think about what the serum means to him. Right. Also, stop and think about who Zemo is in his life and what Zemo did. Why would he team up with him? Like, why would he not pause? Wait, like, there's all these, and they're like, there's nothing. He had no other options. Well, he had no other options just only because the show told us that. But there wasn't an urgent thing. There wasn't a ticking clock to make us think that we can't wait 2 days. You can always find more leads if you wait 2 days. You have all this technology. There's humans out there. They will do things whenever they do something. You can act on whatever they do to get a lead when they do something. But if they're not actually threatening, hey, we're going to blow up this building in 2 days as very powerful people, and you go, oh man, they've only got 2 days. They have no leads. We have to do something. Here's a lead over here. We got to break this guy. Okay, you gave me a ticking clock that would convince me that there was an urgency that would warrant justifying a crazy action. Sure didn't do that. And so it's been frustrating, especially kind of having, it feels like people that they're not trying to understand why people aren't feeling it. They're just trying to defend it. Gamerman, why do you have Justice League in your Superman ranking? Because you know you don't have Civil War, Infinity War, Endgame in your Spider-Man ranking. I can't really give you an answer that I think would be satisfying for you, but I think there's a pretty more obvious comparison because Spider-Man appears in those movies. The main plot line of Justice League involves the death of Superman, causing the world to fall apart, and it's about his resurrection. It's the completion of a trilogy of films about Superman. So, but beyond that, like it's not very interesting to me to try and explain like why I do and don't include certain movies in my rankings. I spent a lot of time thinking about it, and I do what feels best, what makes the most sense. And, Spider-Man being in one scene in Civil War or two scenes in Civil War really doesn't feel on the same length of the whole movie of Justice League is about the life, death, resurrection of Superman. They just feel totally different to me. Jenny Skinner, yes, Benjamin is the man. Ricardo Soto Robles, I'm sorry if I mispronounced your name. I've never seen Terminator 3 through 5. I've only seen Terminator 1, Terminator 2, Terminator Dark Fate. I am fine like that, or would you recommend checking out 3 through 5 at one point? I mean, it's tough to say because I'm such a big fan of the franchise. The idea that I wouldn't watch a Terminator movie is kind of crazy. Of course I'm going to watch a Terminator movie. But beyond that, it's because... It's basically they did 4 different movies after Terminator 2, all of them trying to find a new way to continue the franchise, and none of them continuing what the other one did. So Terminator 3 does stuff that is not followed up by Salvation. Genesis tries something that is not a continuation of Salvation or Terminator 3, and Terminator Dark Fate ignores all of the previous 3 films. So it's 4 different versions of what else could be done in the Terminator continuity. That's weird. It's frustrating. If you're interested in checking that out, cool. If it's a franchise you're into, of course you should check them out. If you're just a moderate fan, then the novelty of them probably isn't worth checking out. But it's, to me, they're all enjoyable as fan fiction at the worst. They're just goofy Terminator fan fiction at worst. But yeah, that's not the way I would perceive it. They're Yeah, it's tough to say because a lot of people don't like those movies. So people have very different perspectives on them. Gamer Man, okay, Sean, I have got to get ready for a 2-minute interview with Mike Coulter, Luke Cage. See you. That's pretty cool. Well, awesome. Have fun talking to Luke Cage. That's I guess a good reason to have to take off from talking with me. The Disney Nerd, what do you think about Godzilla vs. Kong breaking pandemic box office records? Is that all that surprising to you? No? I mean, it doesn't, like, you just put it in perspective. This is the first blockbuster film released at lots of different theaters since the vaccine really started to get out there. So it's the first time people a little bit more comfortable leaving theaters. Like Raya and the Last Dragon came out like a month before it, but like Disney didn't cut as good of deals with as many theaters, so it didn't play in as many theaters, and for whatever reason they didn't market it all that well. So it was kind of felt like just kind of a thud, and didn't play as many places. Godzilla vs. Kong had like a month more wrap up of the vaccine. I think you also kind of have more states have started to open their theaters. You have places like Texas that are just fully open, which as much as the news wanted to make a big deal about Texas being fully open, zero things changed in Texas for me. Everywhere I go, they still have a sign on the door saying they want you to wear a mask. Like, nothing's actually really changed. People, I'm very confused by people's perspective that top tier government is what everyone listens to. But anyway, that's a totally different matter. David Robert Jr., would you rather have an Uncharted 5 with a certain character's daughter or another spin-off with Chloe? I don't know. I don't think. What's your answer, Liam? You want to spin off with Chloe because it's your sister?
Yeah.
Yeah. Liam wants his sister to be the lead of the game. I'm just by default, because we've had an adventure with Chloe, that one feels a little bit like it makes more sense to me. Feels like we'd need more time for it to make sense that the daughter would step into that role. I mean, it's a video game. They can always jump it forward 15 years in the future, whatever. But Chloe feels by default the direction that I would go with things. Rich Reviews, are you excited to watch the HBO miniseries Mar of East Town starring Kate Winslet? No. I mean, it's shown up when I've watched stuff on HBO Max, the little preview for it, but it's like not at all the sort of thing it's like on my radar, like at all. In fact, literally the big joke is since we've been watching Game of Thrones, they play that preview in front of Game of Thrones. So we click on Game of Thrones. Normally when it would do the previously on, it plays the preview for that. And so then I crack a joke about, this is weird. When did Kate Winslet show up in Game of Thrones? Why are there cars in this? I don't understand what's happening. It's just a very Sean Chandler joke that I do all the time. Fox, do you like the type of movie sequels where they erase a bunch of sequels and it's just a direct sequel to the original, such as Halloween 2018, or do you like that they have the original cast? Also, do you like that they have the original cast? Kind of depends on the franchise. I think certain franchises, they just, like, I don't, like, Halloween always kind of went down these different paths and then went back and then cut down a different path and rewrote it. It did that a bunch of times. And so the idea that you're kicking some of that continuity out just doesn't bother me too much. Or, like same thing with Terminator. Terminator Dark Fate ignores 3 movies before it, but each of those movies ignored the one before it. So of course I would much prefer a tight continuity, but some of these ones, they just never had a very good continuity. They just kept rewriting their own rules over and over again and changing things and layering things on top of it in a way that's not fun. As for do I like the original cast, I like seeing characters in different phases of life. So part of what was fun about Halloween 2018 is what if you see Laurie Strode 40 years later as this old lady whose entire adult life was her being traumatized by what happened this one night 40 years earlier. Until she's become the survivalist. That's kind of interesting to me. So That's what I think the advantage of some of them is. Like, do I like Halloween 2018 more than Halloween 5 and 6? Yeah. So I prefer that they did that. So I don't like to make a general rule about it, but normally when they do that sort of thing, they're coming in with more money, a little bit more prestige, talent. Don't mean it in the mean sense, but there's more weight to what they're trying to do and why, as to why they're erasing stuff. Adam, do you think you'd like Falcon and the Winter Soldier more if WandaVision didn't come out first? No, I don't think that there's a bit of a comparison there because I can be like, I know how invested I got in WandaVision, how much intrigue, how good of a job that did at building intrigue as it went along. But in general, my issue with Falcon and the Winter Soldier is it's like, we got to episode 3 and I was like, wait, where's the threat? Where's the urgency to justify what they're doing? Like, okay, I got it. Like episode 1, we're taking our time, characters, cool. Episode 2, oh, we're actually spending time with Walker, cool. Wait, episode 3, we're halfway through the season and I don't know what the big threat is. Episode 4, okay, you're trying to convince me that the bad guys aren't so bad after all. And the government is pretty, wait a minute, okay, episode 5, character-based again? Oh, okay, there is no big threat. There's people that have potential to do powerful things, but they're not trying to do something super evil until maybe this last episode, but apparently they had to do major rewrites because there's a plot line about a pandemic and a vaccine that they had to cut, supposedly, and to do big rewrites. I suspect that did a big part of my issues with the show is that there's an actual piece that was serious threat, serious danger that they just didn't think was a good thing to reveal right now because it was like government is evil and they have a vaccine. They went, okay, probably don't want to tell that story while we're trying to get people to get a vaccine. So, yeah. Alien 3 was great. Sean, I hear your concerns on my ranking. On a different note, if you could have been a star in one movie franchise, what would it be? So I've always kind of said the thing that would be like a dream from. So actually, here's the story that leads to the fantasy in my mind of one of the fantasies always in my mind of it would be awesome to be one of these dudes that gets to star in one of these action movies, superhero movies, where they spend a year getting in fantastic shape, training with guns, training in martial arts, and spinning around on wires. Ever since I saw The Matrix Revisited, the feature-length documentary on the making of The Matrix, and they showed Keanu Reeves, Lawrence Fishburne, Hugo Weaving, all of them training with guns, martial arts, all that fun stuff, I went like, that would be a cool year of your life. And then it's documented in a movie of like the year I was awesome and did cool stuff. So I don't have a specific movie, but, certainly a lot of the stuff Keanu Reeves has done, that would be awesome to do the training for all of that. Some of I like the idea of like getting in shape, amazing shape to do an action movie like the MCU guys all do. At the same time, I'm not as interested in the running around on a green screen for 6 months. So the Keanu Reeves stuff where you're actually learning choreography and in a room rolling around on the floor, shooting guns and stuff, is a little bit more intriguing to me. Dennis, speaking of vacation, do you think you could eventually take your family on a road trip to Bend, Oregon to visit the last living blockbuster in the U.S.? I've been there in 2019. It was cool to see. Of things that I would take vacations, road trips, I would take my family on, that probably wouldn't be super high on the list. Because you think of all of the things that I could do with my family, Blockbuster has no meaning to my kids. They have never been to a Blockbuster in their entire life. So going to the last one is also their first one. It's interesting to me. So if the world opens up back up, I have thoughts of trying to actually earlier today, I applied to speak at a Comic-Con in Houston later this year. So if I get back into normal world and speak at Comic-Cons and stuff like that, I'd be looking at them all over the place, and I might be interested to do something like that, but it wouldn't be the first thing I would take my kids to go see. David Patterson, there were 9 people in the U.S. history in film class the other day, so we came up with questions about the films we watched that are just total nonsense to mess with the people that weren't there. people in the class. I'm assuming there's a lot of people that are missing. So, but yeah, always fun when you can play jokes. The Disney nerd. I know you're not a big on award ceremonies, correct? But will you be watching the Oscars? Yeah, I normally watch the Oscars. I normally check them out. Well, excuse me, I do now. Now, like, I don't think I did even until I went full time, and I went full time right before the Oscars 2 years ago, and so I think it was maybe even that weekend or something like that. That it was like the like 1 week after I went full time was the Oscars or something. But so I started watching them because it just feels like I should be knowledgeable and pay attention. But there's just so many things about them that just aren't even interesting to me. They just feel so detached. It's not the stuff that I'm as interested in. I don't feel like it. There's this growing detachment between awards movies and what people watch. If you go and look at what won Best Picture all throughout the 90s, almost all those movies were hits. Like Titanic, really big hit, but Braveheart, Saving Private Ryan, and all these movies, Forrest Gump, were hit movies that normal people went to go see. And you kind of look at what gets nominated over the last 10 years or so, it's more and more important films, obscure films, and they're just not movies that kind of resonate as much with normal people. My channel is built on that I'm a normal guy. I don't really understand prestige films all that well. My bag of tricks in talking about them isn't that deep. Sometimes I don't even understand why some movies get nominated for Best Picture. It just kind of confuses me a little bit. Even looking at the one I've seen about half the nominees this year, it's still a little bit confused why some of these movies are nominated for Best Picture. It's a weird year. It's a weird year this last year. So I understand that a lot of stuff didn't come out. Changes the game a little bit, but yeah, I'll check it out, but it's just really not my strong point. Thomas Jones, hey Sean, haven't been one of these for a while, but still loving the channel and really enjoying the MCU Audience vs. Critics video. Yeah, I don't even know what took me so long to... actually, if you pay attention to the video, pay close attention, you'll notice that the scores on some of the movies change throughout the video. Both what I say and what's in the graphic, it changes. And that's because I actually wrote my notes for that video and I screenshotted a bunch of the graphics. I don't even remember when. I've been sitting on this video meaning to do it for a while, prepped it to do it, and then it didn't end up happening from months ago, probably from last year. So probably 5 months ago, I did work on this one. And then this month slowed down. We don't have, March had a lot of stuff coming out, and so then April doesn't. So it needed to, like, what do I do to have hit videos? And so that's one that I knew would be successful. And then I had the sponsorship opportunity, and so that's why I teamed it up, because I knew it was one that would do well. But yeah, I like, if I look at my past Audience vs. Critics videos, they've done really well, and I actually screwed this one up on the titling. Part of the process of doing a hit YouTube video is you have to think about the title and the thumbnail before you write the video, so you can write the video to the best title. You think, what's the title that's most likely going to intrigue people and get them to click? And that's the one that you want to go with. And I didn't do that. I wrote the video and then realized, oh crap, I don't have a good title for this. I don't have a title that captures it right. Like, it would have been better if I'd come up with a title that was 10 MCU movies audience disagree on. It's more concise. MCU's at the beginning of it. It's a little bit more intriguing, as opposed to 10 times audience and critics disagreed on MCU. MCU is buried in the title, and YouTube truncates titles. And so it's just not as good. So yesterday, the video probably would have even been better and done better if I'd thought. Anyway, I'm giving you way too many inside things that you probably don't care about in titling. David Patterson, my local theater is showing Citizen Kane next week and The Dark Knight next month. I get my second dose of the vaccine on Tuesday, so I might not be able to see Citizen Kane, but The Dark Knight should be possible. Yeah, I would. Both of those would be one. You guys are talking a lot. You're throwing me off. If you can whisper right in each other's ears, but if you're talking, then I get thrown off. Talking while listening is tricky, and I can't stop listening to your fascinating conversations. Yeah, like I said, if you guys just tuned in, my kids are right over there playing a game. So that's why I didn't just start talking randomly like I went crazy. But so, yeah, either one of those. Citizen Kane would be the one that would be more interesting to me because I've never seen it on the big screen. And so, obviously one of the most important films in cinema history. But Dark Knight also, an amazing film that's one that for me, I think they played it a couple times at my local theater that, if Liam was just a little bit older, would take him to go see it, but he's probably a little bit too young. Though he's actually watched it with me late at night. Corey watches. Hey, Sean, I rewatched Kingsman the other day and I forgot how great the Dire Straits opening sequence was. Do you have a favorite opening sequence in a movie? Not off the top of my head. Sorry, I wish I had a better answer for you. Yeah, I can't think of one off the top of my head. I mean, like Nolan has several movies that just have like Dark Knight, a movie that obviously starts off with a real amazing sequence. Several Bond movies. Well, I don't know if I had a Bond movie I would put in the top. Yeah, I don't think it was to go with Bond movie. Yeah, off the top of my head, I think it's just tough. I have to stop and think about those ones because I haven't done a list like that, so I've never really thought about it. So unfortunately, I don't have a good answer. I wish I had a better answer for you, but I don't. Sorry. Christopher Ard, how is fitness going? I saw you were going to get in the best shape of your life before you turned 40. Yeah, it's both going good and bad. Good in the sense that I'm on my end as the best of my willpower can. I'm sticking to stuff and doing a good job on diet stuff and being smart with it. Other than when I have to hang out with people or have birthday parties, this kind of throws me off a little bit. So this last week I've had a few too many cheat meals. But in general, day to day, I've got a real good routine of like foods that I can eat but have packed with protein and stuff like that. And then, but the bad side to it is that the last month allergies have been really bad here, and so it's been just knocking me out. And then I'm just old enough that I'm actually having like all the old man stuff. We went bowling for spring break, and this is literally a month ago, and we did one round of bowling, and my shoulder hasn't been 100% since. And your shoulders are kind of use that one a lot of exercises, and so it's not bad, but it's enough that I've been aware, like, all right, I need to back down. Okay, I'm gonna start using the machines a little bit more, less free weights, because I don't want to mess up my shoulder and have to stop training. And then I've hurt my lower back a couple times. Like this week, I had to stop working out Wednesday. So basically, Wednesday afternoon, Friday, Saturday, I didn't do anything because my lower back was just kind of hurting me too much. And in fact, right before we started, the reason I'm like this and had the headband is because I worked out right before I started this, because it was the first time that I've been able to like do stuff. So my willpower is good, but my old man body is not always holding up. Ted Harper Jr., I have a spare copy of the original Mobile Suit Gundam films. Would you like them to maybe do some type of ranking for when live action one comes out in Netflix? Honestly, I don't know hardly anything about that. I saw the announcement and read into it. That is not a franchise world that I know much of anything about. So it wasn't one that I was immediately looking into. I'd have to know more the size of it if it was potential. Like I just don't know. So I'd have to get a little bit more information to see if it would be something I'd be looking into. I just don't know. I couldn't answer off the top of my head because I just don't know enough about it to know if I would be a good fit or anything like that. It would be new for me. Quarter watches. On the contrary to the question from a little earlier, do you think WandaVision would have done as good, given the experimental nature, if someone as safe and standard as Falcon the Winter Soldier came out first? It's all tough to know because of the way the world played out. I think WandaVision very much had whichever one came out first was going to have the advantage of being the first thing we'd gotten in the MCU in a year and a half. This is the longest MCU gap since the gap between Iron Man, or the Incredible Hulk, and Iron Man 2. This is the longest gap in MCU we've had in over a decade. So inherently, whatever came out first was going to have the most immediate intrigue. In particular, also because it was also after 9 months of very few high profile films coming out. And even when high profile films did come out, a lot of people couldn't go see Tenet. So you had 9 months with very few high profile films and even fewer that people could actually watch. Then you get to January and WandaVision comes out. I think that's ultimately the thing that really gave WandaVision the extra edge. It was first, it is a show that builds intrigue, and so it just had a number of things going for it. The show itself always would have been intriguing. I think it would have been hurt maybe a little bit by Falcon and the Winter Soldier coming out first, because Falcon and the Winter Soldier would have gotten the first mover bonus. But I don't think it would be terribly dramatic. But I think the way the universe played out, WandaVision was probably the better one to come out first, because it had so much intrigue. It got people talking in a way that I don't think Falcon and the Winter Soldier is designed to do. WandaVision, at a point in time where people wanted something to be excited about, to talk about each week, WandaVision delivered that for about 6 weeks. So because of that, with what we know now, and I'd been saying for a while, Falcon and the Winter Soldier would be the better thing to release first because it is more conventional. It's an easier on-ramp. Now that we've seen both of them, or almost seen all of both of them, I think WandaVision just had that intrigue factor. Matt McCarthy, what would you consider the ranking of the original Rocky songs? Eye of the Tiger, Gonna Fly Now, Measure of a Man, No Easy Way Out. Eye of the Tiger, number 1. Gonna Fly Now, number 2. No Easy Way Out, number 3. Measure of a Man in 4th. I don't even know what Measure of a Man is. Is that Rocky? Which one is that from? Whatever the rap one from the 5th one, that's in last. And it's a little bit tricky. Yeah, Measure of a Man, Rocky 5. Yeah, way in last place. I mean, Rocky 4 has like half of the movie's montages. So that's got, Hearts on Fire building into the choral music as he runs up the, that would be way above. I'd have that actually in front of No Easy Way Out. But Eye of the Tiger, that is, Gonna Fly Now is classic because it's Rocky, but Eye of the Tiger is full blown popular culture. Janet Skinner, Mortal Kombat. Since Mortal Kombat is coming out, what video game movie infuriated you the most, Sean? While I don't have an answer, people I know say 2016's Assassin's Creed, and Cody Leach said House of the Dead. Which one infuriated me? What's your answer?
Predator.
Predator?
Yeah.
That movie infuriated you?
No.
You hated Predator?
No, I thought you were...
Why did you hate Predator? How dare you?
I thought you were talking...
You're sleeping in the backyard. You're out. You're out of here.
I meant Dog's Way Home. It angered me a lot.
Which one?
Dog's Way Home.
Dog's Way Home. Yeah, that was that was dramatic for our family. I don't think our family will ever recover from watching that movie. Let's see. Let me think. I can't think of one. Looking at my list of over 20 of them, I don't know that any of them have really infuriated me. They just disappoint. Like Assassin's Creed, I'm not a fan of it, but it didn't infuriate me. Mortal Kombat Annihilation is horrible, but it was it looked bad. I got a soft spot for Street Fighter. I think one of the ones that I think is the most bizarre in the way it's bad, and I just watched it a couple days ago, Prince of Persia. It's a movie that should be so much better than it is. And you can, especially now that Aladdin's come out, you can see how someone kind of did some similar stuff, but much more enjoyable. They're very different movies, but they're similar in certain ways. But watching Prince of Persia, the whole movie, it feels like they took like a 2-hour and 20-minute movie, and they just went, we got to cut 20 minutes. Just cut 10% of everything. So every time they're doing action, it just feels like it cuts too much out of it. Every scene cuts a little bit too quickly. Every time they do a stunt, instead of pausing to be like, wow, that guy just jumped off a balcony and caught the wall and fell down, it just does it like in a way that it's like, no big deal. You don't even stop to think about it and it moves on instead of being like, wow, that guy could have broken his leg. So that's the one that infuriates me, even though I'm not at all infuriated by him, just disappointed by him.
So you like forgot the name of it?
No, Prince of Persia.
Oh.
No, we watched it a couple days ago after you went to bed. Corey watches. Thoughts on Kevin Smith auctioning off his distribution rights for the new film via NFT. I don't know anything about that, so I have no thoughts on it. I have no thoughts on it whatsoever. And I haven't really watched any recent Kevin Smith movies, so I can't comment on them too much, unfortunately. So, not one that I have an opinion on. Christopher Ard, if you could be an expert in any martial art, what would it be? Okay, so Taekwondo has all the fun, fancy jump kicks and high kicks and stuff. So it's a fun one because it's very flashy, very cinematic, fun looking, just these big kicks. And I've never been flexible. That's one thing I've never been is flexible. And so being able to do that would be fun. And then Jeff Speakman started this movie, The Perfect Weapon, 30 years ago. And I just thought the fights in that one just seemed so cinematic while also seeming more based in reality than most of these. They're not spinning jump kicks and stuff like that. It's like a guy doing these fast punches to strategic parts of the body. So it looked like one that you could actually win a fight with it. So Jeff Speakman's Kenpo is one. Alien 3 was great. With the movie Logan, they decided it would be rated R. Do you think Avengers Infinity War and Endgame would have been as popular, more popular, less popular with an R rating? Less popular because it just doesn't fit the genre. It doesn't fit the characters, I don't think. It doesn't make the part of what the MCU is able to do is that they go very broad. That I took my son to see Endgame, age 7, see it in the theater, but then 50-year-olds can enjoy it too. It's very broad appeal is what they do with the MCU. And, maybe they're formulaic, maybe a little bit too generic and sure. But they're broadly likable. That's also likewise why they all are fresh on Rotten Tomatoes, because they're just broadly easy to enjoy movies. Logan is designed to appeal to a much more narrow group of people that are going to go bananas for it. It's designed to be that. Fewer people saw it. It made a lot less money than Endgame, but people have been celebrating it. But the character of Wolverine is just by his very nature a very dark, violent character that has 150 years old, dealt with loss, death. They're themes that, to really explore them, you get something out of going R with it. There's a lot more that you can add by going R with Wolverine that I don't know how much more you get in Infinity War if you show Thanos ripping people in half and their guts fall out. I don't know how that makes the movie better. I don't know how having Tony Stark drop an F-bomb when he realizes half the universe died and I don't know what we get, like how that makes the movie better. Whereas with Wolverine making this movie about this guy that has lived, loved, and lost, and who his mentor is a very dangerous person because he's lost control of his cognitive decline while having a brain that can kill people. That's really dark, heavy stuff that doesn't really work in a PG-13 movie. So I think that the inherent nature of the franchises is why Wolverine Logan is so profound as rated R. And I go, I don't know what is added to the MCU if you go rated R. I don't know which one of these franchises you get something more out of if you can go in that direction. Rich Reviews, would you rather buy electric or a solar-powered car? Electric, I guess.
I think so.
You want an electric car?
Yeah, because if it were a solar car, I think I'll only be able to drive it during the day and not anytime else.
Yeah, you want to drive at nighttime? Because you're stalking people?
No.
I taught him the word stalk last night. Now he wants to stalk people with his car that can drive at night. Right? If you're wondering, he's sitting there over on the couch with the Rocky IV poster right above his head. And we're over our hour limit, so I'll close out on these questions. Don't throw too many more in here. Fox, I know you've said that you won't rank certain franchises like Leprechaun, but are there any other franchises that you will never rank? Human Centipede. Human Centipede. Don't hold your breath on that one. So there's ones that I wouldn't rank simply because I don't think I'd be good at it. It's just too much work for me to be able to, for what I think would do well on my, all these people the last month have been like, you should rank all the Godzilla movies. There's over 30 of them. And if you're someone that grew up on them, you see things with more specificity. You know the differences in a way that I don't. I don't appreciate the differences watching through them and the history and everything. And so then it just wouldn't, the person that wants to watch a ranking of 30 Godzilla movies wants to hear that from someone that knows what they're talking about. And I'm just not that. So for me, spending 60 hours to do that ranking would just be bizarre. But then there's the ones like Human Centipede. I'm just not going to watch those movies. 50 Shades of Grey. I'm not going to watch those movies and rank them. It's just not going to happen. So there's a lot of things like that. And sometimes I don't even know. The reason I decided not to rank the Leprechaun movies is because I bought them and I was watching through them and I got to the third one and I was like, okay, we're 3 in and I there's none of these that I think are good. And I don't want to do a ranking that's just me saying how much I hate this franchise. I'm just not interested in doing that. Daniel Skinner, Wrong Turn, just as bad as Leprechaun. Hey, I got all those in my fan mail the other day, so I've got all those movies. Haven't seen any of them, but I own all of them now. Thomas Jones, currently watching Tarantino and Kill Bill for the first time over the past few days. Really good movie. On Pulp Fiction now, which one? On Pulp Fiction now, which I know is one of your top movies. Yes. Yes, indeed. Tariq, do you have a space for a nice home theater setup? I made myself one at the beginning of the pandemic, and I've really been enjoying creating a cinematic experience, especially for older movies. No, because I have 3 kids. The spot in my office isn't too bad. The TV downstairs is 4K. It's the new one. I actually think our old TV looks better, but it's not 4K, and the speakers are blown out on it. So it's running through a nicer sound system with a subwoofer and everything here in my office. But it doesn't. The TV up here doesn't have all the fancy. Here, close the door.
Okay.
It doesn't. It's connected to a PlayStation 3, so it doesn't have all the apps and stuff. I've been waiting to get a PlayStation 5, so I have 4K downstairs on the new TV, and then I would get the PS4 up here, which has all the apps and stuff. But I don't have all that. Anyway, all that to say, it's just really tough to have like a cinematic room when you have kids. It's just. You go much more practical. And where can you put everybody to sit on the floor? Ryan Peterson, some comic book movies worked rated R and some don't. Yeah, just certain characters are kind of designed a little bit more for they're like when you think about something going rated R, there's the superficial, which is how many boobs, F-bombs, and dead people does it show? Like there's this and how like the superficial version of that. This is my hand. What are you talking about? I don't know. He's like talking to me about what's on his hand in the couch. He pulled something out of the couch.
It was on my blanket.
Even more so. I don't know. Why would I know what's in your blanket? So, but there's the superficial version of it that it's like, oh, how would these movies be better by adding those elements into it? And then there's the deeper version of the concept of, is the movie made just for adults? Because there's like a way that like the level of sophistication in the storytelling, the themes that are established, you change it when you're trying to design a movie from everyone from age 13 to 60 versus if you're making a movie from everyone that's 22 older. Like it's very different, the types of themes, ideas that you put in there. That is where the R rating makes a difference. And that's why Logan is so profound. It's not a movie that, a lot of 9-year-olds, 12-year-olds, they're not like pondering their life, their mistakes. They don't like the themes in that movie aren't something they would resonate with. But the movie was designed only for adults. So adults do. So the people that the movie is for get so much more out of it because it's narrowed down its focus to adults. And certain movies are designed that way. Inherently, the MCU is not. The MCU is designed for everyone, as many people as possible. That's what the MCU is designed for, and that's what it's very good at. It's designed as an entry point. So many people tell me, yeah, I started watching your videos because of your MCU villain ranking. And then I started discovering all these other movies because of you. And then I discovered these other people after that. That's what I want to have happen. The MCU is designed to be a starting point. And a lot of what I do is cover the starting point. Other people are better at let's dig deeper on other things. So, indeed. Ryan Peterson, hi, Sean. Hope you're having a great weekend. I am. Unfortunately, we're about to end this deal. Goodbye, Sean. Goodbye, Daniel. Have a great Sunday. Hey, everybody. Talk to you later. See you next Saturday. I believe we should be all good to go for next week. I don't think there's anything next weekend. Sometimes I get
6 days till the next live stream.
6 days, yeah. Pretty exciting. Only 6 more days. Talk to you guys later. Thanks so much for your support and keep talking movies too much.